A 30-second CGI marketing video can cost you anywhere between $2,000 to well over $100,000. And this is because the traditional way of creating CGI videos requires a lot of steps and processes, from the pre-production stage to the production stage and the post-production stage. And what makes CGI marketing videos really expensive is the fact that first you have to create the 3D model, then you have to go into the modeling itself, and then texturing and rigging and then animation. It requires quite a lot of steps and processes, which is one of the reasons that makes this process really expensive. And we've seen some of our favorite fashion brands use CGI in their marketing materials for social media content or just marketing materials. From brands like Jacquemus to Nike to Ralph Lauren, there are quite a lot of brands that are using CGI marketing, which is not surprising because CGI marketing is one of the most interactive and engaging ways of creating content today, because people won't just scroll past your content, they will engage with it, they would watch it till the end and try to see how the video ends. They will end up sharing your videos to multiple people. So this is one of the reasons that actually makes CGI super interesting. And one of the benefits of CGI videos is that it gives brands greater control over consistent ways of creating playful and fun content across social media. And if you are a small creator, a small business owner, or a small entrepreneur, having to churn out $5,000 to $100,000 is not something that is sustainable to create just one video. Which is why over the past month, I've been exploring ways to create CGI videos using AI, because right now with AI you can create the same effect of a CGI video without having to go through the traditional process. A few months ago I created this video using a Ralph Lauren's fragrance that was sent to me by the brand, but instead of creating a traditional content, I wanted to create something really fun. I wanted to explore with CGI without having to go the traditional route, because honestly I personally don't have $100,000 to create a 5-minute CGI video. So I've been playing around and exploring ways that I can create CGI style content without having to spend a CGI budget. So in this video, I'm going to show you some simple ways that you can also explore with creating CGI content, because I think aside from a traditional photo content or videos, it's one of the most engaging and interactive content that you can post, whether you're a creator, a small brand, or just trying to find creative ways to create content today. Because as we know, the content creation space is so saturated, and what actually makes people stop scrolling is how interactive and how engaging your content is. And there's a reason why content from Jacquemus, for example, always goes viral, because CGI content just creates this fun element of the unexpected. It's like seeing a giant bag just rolling across the street, a street you're very familiar with, but you know that's not something that is real, but it makes it fun and makes you want to engage and watch the video to the end. But before I tell you exactly how I created this CGI video, I want to show you how it looks from the beginning to the end. So now let's talk about the way that I created this CGI video. So the first thing I did for this project was to come up with a concept. Like any project, it's very important for you to come up with a clear idea in your mind of how you want it to look. I knew I wanted this product to be shot in a very familiar place in downtown Los Angeles. So I went to this location and I took a picture of the location. You don't have to use a familiar location if you don't want to. You can also generate a new location. Maybe you want the product or the concept to be futuristic. You can create a photo using a tool like Midjourney. It doesn't have to be a familiar location. But what makes CGI interesting is when you capture a familiar location that people are familiar with. That makes it really interesting because they know exactly where that place is and they've never seen any products floating around or being on the floor like that. So you can decide on how you want that project to look like. This is going to be something that you would have to decide as a part of your creative idea. So for me, in this case, I knew I wanted it to be in downtown. So I went to this location after scouting so many multiple places, and then I took a picture of that location. And then the next step was to take the picture of the product that I want to feature. And this is very important because you need to make sure when you capture the picture of the product you're trying to feature, you capture it from the angle that best showcases what you're trying to highlight as a part of the product. For example, it could be a lipstick, it could be a handbag, it could be a pair of shoes, shoes, it could be fragrance, it could be a polo shirt you want floating in the air, or you want to use air balloon or something. So you let your concept and the product dictate how you are going to capture that location and how you're going to take a picture of that product. So in this case, it was a fragrance bottle. I wanted to capture it just sitting on the ground, just solid, like it's not something that was floating around. So that was very easy. For you, it could be something different. So you have to think about this. How do you want this final product to look like? Because that will make it more believable. Because if you're capturing something that looks like it's floating when it should be standing, it won't look believable. So you want to do that and make sure you're very clear with the idea you're trying to get across. So once you're done with that, the next thing is to combine your location and the product. In this case, I imported this picture of the fragrance that I already captured and placed it on the ground in the location of the picture that I took. So I made sure it was believable. I scaled it properly. You can use a tool like Canva or use Photoshop, whatever tool, it doesn't matter. You just want to scale it in a way. If you're creating a polo t-shirt, for example, and you want it floating in the air, then you want to capture the location and the product in a way that is believable. So it's about natural creases on the garment to make it look like it's floating, because an item that is floating is usually not straight because it's just the law of physics. So you need to apply some of these elements when you're combining these items. Once I was done placing the product in the environment, the next step is to import this into a tool like Runway, which is where you will animate it and bring it to life. And when you're animating, you want to animate in different scenes. You want to use different set of prompts in a way that you can then combine it later in a tool like CapCut. So for this scene, I had about 10 scenes. Some worked out, some didn't work out. I created a time lapse. I created, the product moving. I created the fragrance actually spraying, as you could have seen in the video. So you want to combine multiple scenes. And one thing I noticed a lot of people do and struggle with is trying to put too many scenes in one scene. This would not work, because also you make AI very confused, because you're having all of this prompt in different directions all in one scene at a time, because then you're going to have multiple videos that you can then combine together in a tool like Canva. So once I was happy with all the videos that I generated using Runway, I exported all these videos and I put all of them in a timeline, and I cut and edit as I saw fit. And this is something you can also do for the product you're trying to create. You might get some errors because AI is not perfect. When you're working with a tool like Runway, it is bound to make mistakes. It is bound for it to get the motions wrong sometimes. So you want to create just as much as possible so that you can have more footage to work with. It's always better to have more footage than not have enough. So you want to make sure you create up to 5 to 10 scenes that you can then combine. So in this case, I exported everything to CapCut, which was a place where I arranged the timeline of the video, and I added sound because this is also something that makes it believable. I took out some scenes that didn't really work very well. It's better to have a smaller footage, like 10 seconds, honestly, than for you to have a 30-second scene that looks mishmash or doesn't look good, or the scenes are not, or the motion is not just believable. So I did all of that on CapCut, and when I was done, I simply just exported everything from CapCut, and the final result, as you can see, is something that is quite interesting. It is believable, and you would not really tell this is something that was created using AI, because if I had to go the traditional route, this is something that will require, again, a lot of 3D modeling, texturing, rigging. It's a long process. And as a small brand or a small business owner, this is something that is tedious. And I think CGI is so interesting that it shouldn't be limited to big brands alone. So these are ways that you can use AI to create a simple CGI marketing. If you would like to know exactly how I created this CGI video and the prompts that I used, the exact process that I used to create this video, I'm gonna put a link in the description below, so make sure you check it out. This is where, I have some of the files and the guides on how I create some of my AI projects that you can use. You can always fine-tune some of the prompts, but it shows you the structure, it shows you the guideline that I use to create this. So I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.